paused to consider if you're willing. Are you a person who has a personality that is willing, or is it more in resistance maybe? Or maybe more skeptical. Some of us are skeptics. Have you ever paused to consider, am I willing? I think it's an important question for us to ask on our spiritual journey in particular, because being willing on our spiritual journey is really about the expansion that we seek. It's about the understanding of ourselves, of life, of spirit, higher power, God. We have to be willing to be open to some of that, to understanding more of that. Today we're starting our new series for March. Welcome to March already. Didn't we just have the Burning Bowl in January? But here we are in March. And if you remember in January, our theme for this entire year is Amazing Grace. So we're going to be weaving grace into our service throughout the year. And this month, our theme is Living in Grace. Living in Grace. And that's also the name of the book that we're studying. And today my talk is asking that question. Are you willing? Are you willing to live in grace? Are we willing to let go of this small reality that we have created as our lives and to step into the larger reality of spirit? Are we willing? It sounds good, but what resistance, what boundaries maybe have we established in our life that keep us from getting there? Most of us developed a sense of reality based on our family that we were born into and the things that we learned there, school and the things we learned there, our friends, science and the medical community and what they've taught us, maybe our church or this one or others that you've been exposed to. We have all taken all of these things that we've been told about life, about ourselves, and we've created a reality for ourselves that says this is good, this is bad, this works, this doesn't work, and we've set that reality for ourselves. Most people don't ever question that. Now, I know everybody in this community has questioned that because you come into new thought, and new thought is new thinking, and we question those kinds of things, right? And most people in the world don't question. Don't question that. Our book of the month, as I said, is Living in Grace, and Becca Lewis is the author of it. And her theme of the book is to live in grace. We have to change this perspective of the small reality. We have to change the perspective and be willing to step into a greater reality, a greater expression of life. In the very beginning of the book, she goes through some questions, and I thought it would be fun to share those with you. Those in the book study on Tuesday, we had a jolly good time going through them, and they've given me some pondering time for the week as I worked through the material. So again, I want to share with you this morning. She says, are you willing to receive abundance in all forms? That's pretty easy. Are you willing to receive abundance in all forms? Sure. As long as it shows up how I want it to, right? On my timeline, the way I want it to look. I want that new car, but it can't be a clunker, even though the clunker was free. But I want a new, right? We have conditions. We have boundaries. Are you willing to let go of the beliefs that hold and bind you in lack? Absolutely. And that's kind of where but that won't work for me. Yeah, but all the good ones are gone. Yeah, but that's where that stuff sort of comes into play. Are you willing to become what you are meant to be? Are you willing to become what you're meant to be, to accept the call? It's Marianne Williamson, of course, that tells us that we serve no one, nor the world, by playing small, but many do. Are you willing to be worthy? Are you willing to give up the story, the thing that whoever told you that you were unworthy in some area of your life? Are you willing to give that up, give up that story, and just be worthy? Okay, don't get too excited. Those are the easy ones. All right, let's move on. Let's go a little deeper. Are you willing to let go of your limiting beliefs? Of course we are, right? Of course we are. That's what we're here to do, is let go of all of our limiting beliefs. But sometimes we get tripped up on things like health, wholeness, healing, sickness, illness, flu season. We stumble over some of these things. We stumble in our money sometimes because we have this reality that we've created, that we've based our lives on. Experience has taught me, Ernest Holmes teaches us, that principle's not bound by precedent. But we are, aren't we? We're bound by those precedents because that's the truth of our being. Are you willing to do what is asked? What is asked of you of Spirit? Are you willing to do what is asked? Well, sure, within reason, right? I mean, I'm not going to, if Spirit tells me I'm supposed to sell everything and move to Timbuktu and work on a farm and give my time away to volunteer, I'm not going to do that. But can we believe in an infinite intelligence that would never ask that of us? Unless that was a call of our spirit, of our soul within us that wanted to do that. And then the way would be made for us to do so. But many have that fear that, if I really give it to God and commit, I'm going to be asked to do things I don't want to do. Be asked to grow, expand, experience joy. Are you willing to follow your inspiration to create something new? To do what it takes to step through the fear, step over the boundaries, make the phone calls, have the conversations. Are you willing to follow your inspiration? Are you willing to be open? Are you willing to be open to let go of your perspective? To change it, to shift it, to look at life a little differently? See things fresh. It's all God. It's all good. We're all connected. Let go of separation. Are you willing to set healthy boundaries for yourself in all areas of your life? Remember, boundaries can become prison walls if they're not careful, can't they? And we're on the inside. But healthy boundaries. Are you willing not to be liked? What are you doing today to be sure that you're liked? What part of yourself are you giving away to be liked? Are you willing to have no desires? What? Are you willing to have no desire? Yeah, right? What's that about? How about no attachment? How about no wanting? How about accepting the truth of the divine givingness of Spirit, and that all that we desire is already provided for us? No, we don't have to want and desire and spend our energy in the details and the creation and the calling in and the calling forth. We can just be in acceptance. And we can live and move and have our being in God as God lives and moves and has its being within us. Are you willing to have everything? Are you willing to have everything? Or is there something in the story about not having is the drama, is the trauma of life that we need to experience? Can't have it all, right? Wouldn't be pretty. Are you willing to stop hurting? As pain and suffering become part of your self-identity, are you willing to stop hurting? Are you willing to be happy, to be loved, to let truth be the one and only God in your life? Are you one of those people that's always waiting for the shoe to drop? Can't stay this good. Can't stay this good. Something's got to change. Something's got to happen. All these little cliches that we hear and we know and we've heard and we've possibly said at some point in our lives. Just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Can't be this good. Those are universal consciousness, or Ernest called them race consciousness. And it's things that permeate us. We don't have to think about saying them. They just roll out sometimes. That's in our subconscious. And we know that the subconscious runs us 95% of the time, right? So that's in there. That stuff is in there. And that's what we have to be willing to heal, release, unlearn, let go of. Take a breath, huh? Wow, those were some deep questions. All of those little things that I said behind the question were just things that had come up with me as I was doing the work this week. What came up for you? What came up for you when you heard those "Are you willing?" questions? When we look at grace from the science of mind perspective, we say it's our state of being when we accept our divinity and unity in spirit. When we accept that we are unified in the fullness of God all the time. There is no separation. We are not separate from it. We are unified in God, and we're always deserving of that grace. Many of you, like me, may have been raised in another tradition which told us that, oh, but for the grace of God, there I go. Anybody hear that one?
Mm-hmm.
Heard it all the time. Heard it all the time. Anytime there was judgment about someone's conditions that were less than our conditions, it was by the grace of God. That's not us, because we're special. We're all special. We're all special. We all live in the grace of God. It's not an undeserved special dispensation of the divine. When you do something wonderful, you get grace. Or when you do something bad and nothing bad happens and it was a gift of God, it was just grace that came to you. It's not how it works. It's not the teaching. We live in grace always. We are living in grace when our consciousness is the transparency through which grace is revealed. It's a combination of ideas from Joel Goldsmith and Science of Mind and things, but I just thought that was, our consciousness is the transparency through which God is revealed as ourselves and as others to us. I want you to imagine for just a moment, close your eyes if it helps, living in this state of being and acceptance. Living in a complete state of acceptance, no limits. Are you willing to know that all of your needs are supplied, always? No struggle, no stress. Release it, just let it go. Are you willing to accept your unity with all? Not just your immediate surroundings, not just in Arizona, in the nation, in the world, around the planet, every person. Are you willing to accept unity with all of it? You don't have to agree with all of it, but to recognize your spiritual unity with all of it. You can open your eyes. I like to think of grace as sunshine. We have a lot of that here in Arizona, right? So it's a nice metaphor for us, sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine us going out and standing in the courtyard and there's a nice sunny day today and we're all receiving the sun, right? All of us are receiving it the exact same way. We're all being exposed to it in the same way. I won't say we're receiving it in the same way because we're beings of choice. And we can choose to receive the light and the warmth, or maybe we're thinking, well, fear comes up. I'm being exposed, I'm being burned, I need to cover up and protect. I'm receiving the UV rays, they're horrible for me, I have to protect. Or maybe we're thinking, this is wonderful, I'm collecting some wonderful UV and it's synthesizing the vitamin D in my body and making me healthier. The choice is ours, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And the same is true of grace. We can receive grace as we choose. All of it, total acceptance, a little bit. Keep our boundaries and have our resistance. It's always there. It's always there. The same idea of these boundaries and resistance is true in things like health. The same is true in prosperity, in loving relationships, creative outlet. We get to choose. We get to choose. And most of us have chosen unconsciously, subconsciously, through the exposure that we've had and the things that we've accepted about ourselves to create the small reality that we live. And I'm reminded frequently of that when I have an idea or a thought or create something and think it's just the best thing, and then it gets shot down, or I get a different opinion or a different viewpoint that I hadn't even thought of. Has that happened to anybody else ever? I've had 2 experiences of that in the last couple of weeks, and it's always humbling to be reminded of the variety of ways that we show up in the world, the variety of perspectives that we have. And that's this key with grace, is to recognize that we've got a perspective. How limited is it? Is it like Becca says, that we've got to shift that perspective into something broader to be able to accept that we live in this field of infinite possibilities. We live in the field of grace, always. Can we accept it? Can we receive it? I went into the Science of Mind text and was looking to see what Ernest Holmes, who wrote that, of course, what we teach from, and he's founder of Centers for Spiritual Living. And I looked to see what he said about reality. And he had quite a lot to say about reality, actually. It's like a page and a half of references, so lots and lots of references to reality. And as I read through many of these, he was really describing grace. He was really describing grace. He was describing God. And he uses some of those words interchangeably. If you've studied the Science of Mind text, you begin to realize that he does that a lot. He's trying to tell us the same thing in about 1,000 different ways. But in the text, he says, it is the nature of the universe to give us what we are able to take. It cannot give us more. It has given all. We have not yet accepted the greater gift. Think of the sunshine again, right? Not accepting the greater gift. The design is symbiotic in the synthesizing of the vitamin D in our body through the sunlight. And yet through overdoing, which I'm not recommending that, don't get me wrong, but through having overdone it in our lives in the past, we see the repercussions of it, and yet it's still a source of synthesizing vitamin D in our human bodies. There's still good there. How do we choose to receive it? Several years ago, I was driving through Gila Bend. You know where Gila Bend is? If you've been to San Diego, you know where Gila Bend is. It's that little town on the right that you go through right before you make the turn. And the company I work for has owned substantial real estate in that area. It goes beyond the town. It goes north of the town about 7 miles and further west. And we've owned real estate there for many, many years. And You can tell it's a booming town, right? Anyway, we were down looking at some more land, and I noticed on the road there were some lines, not lines going this way like we were traveling, but lines going this way. And I commented, I said, they must be doing some sort of a test on paint or something. He said, no, those are cattle guards. I said, well, where I come from, cattle guards are metal or wood, and they're kind of semi-buried in the dirt in the road. And he goes, yeah, we have those here too, but we realize that when we paint the stripes on the road, that they can't tell the difference. And they think it's a cattle guard, and they won't come out into the road, which then keeps people safe, because if you've ever hit a cow, you know that's a pretty serious event for you and the cow. So anyway, there you have it. And the cows believed that that was a barrier. They believed it, right? It wasn't really a barrier. They believed it was a barrier, and they wouldn't cross it. Where have we painted lines in our life that we won't cross over? There are barriers for us that we won't cross over. Just paint it on. Holmes says, bondage of humanity is a result of our ignorance of the true nature of reality. And that's what we've done. We put ourselves in bondage by believing a lot of the stuff we were told from very young ages that's never been questioned. It's never been questioned. It was Jesus who said, when you know the truth will set you free. I used to always read the text and go, what is that truth? Where is it? I can't find it. What's that one thing that's going to free me, right? What is that one thing? I just thought it would be, item number one. This is the truth that will set you. It's not like that, is it? We have to find it. Ernest gives us some hints. He says, when we learn to trust the universe, we shall be happy, prosperous, and well. And for me, that's the truth. Trust God. Trust infinite intelligence. Trust Spirit. Freedom, not bondage, is what living in grace is all about. And remember that there is a difference between willingness, willfulness, and willpower. Willpower and willfulness are of the ego, aren't they? They're of the ego. Willingness is of the soul. It is a call of the soul to be prepared, to be ready, to be eager, to move into something new and something different. It's a soul quality that requires a sense of curiosity, a sense of inquiry. And since Reverend Lee gave you homework last week of being curious, you're all ready for exploring willingness this week. All right. So let's look at our practicing the principles and how we might be able to deepen in our understanding of becoming more willing to live in grace. Number one, you hear me say it every Sunday before the offering, during the offering, what we focus on expands. This is a spiritual principle. It's true. I invite you to focus on experiencing grace this week. Set your intentions each morning. I expect to experience grace today. I expect to experience grace today. I am the transparency through which God moves. I accept an unlimited state of being. Imagine starting your day that way each day this week. Journal, keep a record of how you experience everyday grace. Number two is yield. Be willing to give the right away to God this week. How about that? Give the right away to God this week. The word yield has two meanings, has a dual meaning. One is to give way, and the other is to receive, like crop yield or yield on investment. So yield has two different meanings. So yield to God, pause and allow Spirit first in your life and experience a life of higher yields. Come on. That was good. It's a cute play on words. But it's true. Allowing and trusting God to go first, go before us, and straighten out the crooked way. Trusting that, just knowing that's going to happen for us, believing it, giving God the right of way guides us closer to living in grace. So give God the right of way this week. Number 3, discover if you're willing. Discover if you're willing. Use the list from the book of the month if you're in the book study, or pick it up today and do your deeper work to discover if you're willing to accept living in grace. If you're willing to let go of the small reality for the greater reality, for the greater expansion. Becca tells us that being willing is the constant, conscious yielding to truth. Conscious, constant yielding to truth. So that's our living in grace. That's our introduction, really, to what we'll be talking about this month. And grace is something that for a long time for me had been sort of an ethereal sort of concept, difficult to articulate. But as I've deepened and studied into it more, that example of sunshine really is reflective of how I feel, that it is just all giving. It's much like the law. We always are living in the law. And when we work with it, we have better results. When we're conscious of it, we have better results. And so that's the same with grace. And that's what we'll be moving through this month and throughout the balance of this year, is how we can live in more, how we can trust the universe more, how we can trust God more in our lives. I want to close this morning with a reminder from Esther Hicks of Abraham fame. And she says, there is an unlimited stream of well-being and an abundance of all manner of things available to you at all times. But you must be in alignment with the receiving of those things. You cannot stand in resistance of them and receive them at the same time. Are you willing to let go of your resistance and become that transparency through which God is revealed? So let's pray. How good it is that we come together in this oneness, recognizing that we live, move, and have our being in the truth that is God. That God is the truth that sets us free. Trusting this power and presence and this infinite love that created all that is of itself. Knowing, claiming, and affirming God is all there is. It is infinite. It is that which is created and holds the planets in their galaxies. It is that which has created each and every grain of sand on the beach. It is that which has created each and every one of us as manifestations, individualizations of it. And we are blessed with the qualities of the divine. We are that infinite love and harmony, peace, and joy. And being one in it, as it, with it, and with all of life. We are connected always. No separation. And so as I know this unity today for each and every one of us, I speak my word, knowing that we are willing, that we are safe, and that we are trusting in the infinite presence, in that infinite love. And that when we open to God, much like the prodigal son returning to the Father, when we turn to God, God turns to us. And that infinite grace that is ever around us, when we let down our boundaries and our resistance, it floods in, floods through our lives. and we experience the field of infinite possibilities as our life being expressed. That the all good and the all goodness of God is expressed through us and as us. That the crooked ways are absolutely made straight. And that we live in the bounty of the divine. I know for anyone this day that has anything on their heart that they seek prayer around, as they lift it into this prayerful consciousness here and now, that we as community hold them in this light, knowing absolute healing, knowing transformation, knowing love, peace, and joy, knowing that if there are answers required, there is clarity revealed in ways that are easily understood, knowing that healing is revealed, abundance and prosperity flow, that all needs are met. How grateful I am for this knowing. How good it is to be anchored in this truth, and knowing that this is the truth of my being and the being of each of us. It is with great gratitude and thanksgiving that I release this into the action and activity of law, knowing that it is done and it is so. And we affirm this truth together by saying,
and so it is.